All right, and welcome to the first ever Funeral Babe podcast. I'm Melissa. I'm a funeral director.
I'm Christina. I am not.
You really have no business,
I have no business
being on this podcast at all. I've known Christina my whole life since we were little kids. And every day we get on the phone and we talk, and we always end up talking about death, which is pretty interesting. Christina's a stay-at-home mom.
Yes, I am. I have two beautiful girls at home. And I love every morning, after I get the one on the bus, I pick up the phone and call Melissa, and usually she's either on her way to work or to the crematory, or
I
there's
always
somewhere
call
she
you.
always
Call you when I'm going to the crematory. Yeah. It really is. And every morning, people are like, how could you talk to your best friend every single day and never run out of things to talk about? And it's basically because we talk about life and death in the biggest, most epic proportions. Like, do you ever talk with anybody the way?
No, I can't say I do. And even if I do bring up the subject, which is rare, it's short-lived. It never gets into the depth, into the hour-long talks that we can get into.
It's because literally nobody wants to talk about death and dying. Nobody. Like, I guess it's very weird. It's the ultimate conversation starter, if you ask me. Like, I love going places and being like, so, do you ever think about dying?
I've been with you many places where that has actually happened.
Like, we're always talking about deaths, funerals, all this stuff, and it's incredible. I feel like nobody really wants to talk about it, and it really is so connected back to life. It's everything we do.
Yes, but if you're not familiar with it, if you're not in it, in the thick of it every single day, it becomes that taboo topic because, it's sensitive. People get so
nervous. I ChatGPT'd it.
Of course you did.
And do you know that death is literally the number one topic that people are afraid to talk about?
I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
I think it's crazy. One of it is like anxiety and fear, right? So I feel like when I was a kid, I don't even know if you knew this or not, but I was like petrified of dying. Like,
I knew you were afraid of a lot of things. A lot of things. I know dogs were a big one. But I guess I wouldn't think of all that connected to death at a young age.
I guess.
But
I would be afraid that my mom would run out of gas. Okay, like driving places, like have like full-blown panic attacks. But yeah, death was...
Nothing prompted it. It would just be in your head.
And death would just I would think about death. I remember being in like middle school and just thinking of dying. I don't know why. I think we were probably learning about like the Civil War or something like that. And I just thought about dying, and my feet got hot and numb, and like I went in like tunnel vision, and I was just like, I never want to think that thought again. Like, I was petrified.
Yeah, I would be too, and I think most children, without any experience or knowledge or wisdom in that topic, would probably feel the same. But I don't know, like, for myself, I can't ever say that I felt that at a young age, definitely not middle school.
Did you think about it?
About death? The first memory I could think about with death is going to like a funeral in high school. That's probably, and it was sad, and, it was.
But what about your own death?
My own death. Can't say it's really a topic that I thought about,
oh my God.
Tried to.
Maybe this was all a part of my calling. I swear, maybe it is.
I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense to me because how many children, I'm sure if we interviewed them, maybe it wouldn't be a good idea to interview children. Have you ever thought about death?
Wait, your daughter says to me the other day.
I thought you were gonna ask.
No, she says to me, I'm at your house, and she knows what I do for work, I presume.
Yeah, yes, but at a 7-year-old
I don't even know what she
level.
knows, I actually was at my grandma's birthday party yesterday, and I was with my cousin, and he says to his kids who are in 5th grade, so I guess that's like 12, and he was like, I haven't told them what you do yet. I was like, okay. But then I was telling about Haley, and I was like, oh my gosh, when I was at my cousin's house, and when he says to me, I took a work call, and when I came back, and she was like, Titi Melly, do people call you when their phones die?
Well, because that's the 7-year-old mentality.
Brilliant.
But that's what I mean. Like, I don't think a child thinking about death, not that it's not normal, it might not be super normal.
It's the one thing we all have in common. It's like the one thing, too, that, like, you cannot protect anybody from. Like, you could, like, try to delay it, like, safety first, but you can't
No, absolutely
protect anyone
not.
from dying. Like, we're all going to die. And that's something like, it's almost like you're just like not going to tell them until you, like, how does it?
It's hard. I mean, it's hard with kids because they can only understand so much anyways.
And like, they're not going to bring it up, right?
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Like, more kids would be inclined to be like asking the questions and.
Yeah, well, when like a great relative or an extended family member dies and they hear the words, or they see like maybe a little bit of sadness in the family members, I'm sure they get curious, but I don't think it goes into any level that one you and I talk about or that you are familiar with.
I don't think I talked about it. I feel like I was too afraid to like really bring it up. Like, I asked questions and I got answers, but like they weren't like answers. They were just like
the textbook,
happy answers. I don't know, like, it's okay, don't worry about it.
What's a happy answer to it?
Like, oh, you don't have to think about that, or that's not going to happen.
That's grown-up stuff. You don't have to worry about that as a kid. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I feel like with kids and stuff, it's like, I don't know when it gets introduced, but for me, like, I just never felt comfortable, I guess, even talking about it and thinking about, I don't think it was really ever taught to me. Like, I don't think we took like a class.
No, I mean,
I did tell you that story about all the Catholic school kids I was talking about, and private school kids. They would have to go on field trips to funeral homes when they were kids. Like,
parents would sign their permission slips.
like permission slips to go to the funeral home. Like, but like, I get it, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, we talked about that when, because my daughter's class experienced a death. Someone's mother passed away. And, the teacher sent out the group chat and it left it up to the parents to decide whether or not to talk about it. And I reached out to you and what do you think we should do? And yeah, it's all obviously up to the parents' discretion, but why not? Why not introduce it at this age? Why not explain it? And again, you don't have to explain it at a level that you and I could understand, but in some sort of way where they at least get some answers, like to the questions.
Like an introduction, And then even as adults, like most people are, they're filled with anxiety about it. They're afraid to talk about it. They think if they talk about it, it's going to make it happen to them. Like, we just avoid it altogether. Like, it's wild. I think if you actually look at it, when I went through mortuary school and then started working in the funeral home, obviously death and dying is my everyday, which is kind of interesting because, like, I guess I never got to talk about it as a kid, but like, I get to talk about it every day, like.
And everyone wants to hear it. It's amazing too, because so many people want to hear about it.
Well, who wouldn't want to hear about it? And it's like, also like, you get like into so many religious and like cultural beliefs and all these like different exposures of how everyone and just like the regular John Q. public sees death and dying, and it's so up close and personal. And I feel like doing it over and over again and really answering the questions, like getting into death, I don't have a fear of death anymore, like hearing other people's stories, seeing the end of life, thinking about the bigger topics and stuff, I don't have that fear. But if more people talked about it, I think we would not have that fear altogether.
I agree with you completely. I think so. I think because you are so exposed to it. And, you also were looking for the answers. You finally got them and you dove right into it.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, like you deal with it every single day. It didn't in every form. Like, the funeral you did today is going to be different than the funeral you do next week. Then it's going to be different than the funeral you do next week, at night compared to the morning. And it's amazing. And you're right, like to see the cultures, how they come together, how they deal with their grief, how, the difference between losing, a parent or a child or an aunt or, there's so many different dynamics. And like, you've literally seen it full 360, like you get like a sense of comfort with it, I guess. And
it's perspective driven, like all the perspectives, like, when it comes to like children per se, that's always a big topic people always ask me about. It's like with children, it's like you start to see the patterns. And when children pass away and families and all these things, and you see the patterns of grief and you see the patterns of the outcomes, and it makes you live differently. Everything, it's just so, when you're exposed to it so much, it's like you go home and it's such a learning experience.
Yeah.
Like, it's beautiful lessons, as I've always said. It's like, I've learned some of my greatest lessons at work. And that's why, like, when we talk, it's like everything just ends up talking back to death. It's like, well, when you look at the bigger picture in life, because it's
everything
so
goes
connected.
back to death. Everything in life comes back to death. And yeah, it's worded perfectly.
And people, like, even like, they don't, what is it? I think I was reading online, it was like 40% of people don't have wills or something like that, or only 40% of people have wills,
not
like
surprised.
a crazy number. And it's like, either am I. Like, I plan funerals all the time, and like, really nobody's pre-planned. People don't want to talk about it. It's just so bizarre. And it's like, there's so much value in having the conversation, or even talking about what you think, what your thoughts are on it. It's okay to be a topic to be vulnerable on. It's one thing we all have in common.
But you're right. I think that people, because either we don't talk about it enough, or it's so like sad. It's you think about death. Everything is just sadness for people who aren't in it all the time. It's a sad time. So who wants to choose to pick to talk about a sad time?
Right. Like, people don't want to talk about it. They think it's like sad and depressing, and it's like, no, this is my favorite topic.
Well.
It is. Like,
I know it's yours, but
I think it teaches us a lot about ourselves. It teaches us a lot about how to live a better life, like, in so many different ways, even the way you feel on it. Like, death kind of is our biggest motivator in everything that we literally do. Like, it's why you look both ways before you cross the street.
Yeah,
like, you're avoiding death.
yeah.
But like, we do all these things, and I say, like, you invest in your future, you buy a house, you go to college and all that stuff, because your time is so limited here. So that's why you're doing those things. You're literally getting motivated by death, like you're
So
want to live your life. Like, everything connects back to it. You see those stories and stuff, and like, where people like take their life back, and they have these great changes, and it's like, you're doing it because you only have now. Like, if you want to do it, you got to do it now. That's death.
And I love the way you I love the way you worded that. That is so beautifully spoken and explained, and like, it seems so simple. It seems like it's so simple that you could just say to someone, like, why wouldn't you want to talk about this? And I also feel like, too, people do want to talk about it. There are people that do want to talk about it. There are people out there that will bring it up randomly, or like, I was at the butcher once, and some guy, it was the anniversary of his mother's death 12 years ago, and then he gets into a whole conversation about how this one died and where this one was, and then the other guy's responding with his, and people do talk about it when it gets brought up. But yeah, why isn't it being brought up more? And why is it only the select few that can speak up on it? And why is it only certain times and occasions? Yeah, and even like with grief, and when someone passes away, I mean, we know, people don't want to talk about that person anymore, because they feel like they're like, gonna upset the person, when it's like, no, this is such a normal part of life, and like, you still carry that with you, and you still, that death is still with you. Everything that love is still there. You want to talk about them. Yeah. Like, we don't have to hide it. Why are we keeping it a secret? Or, people don't want to say things, or, I don't know. I feel like we could just all talk about it more and realize that it says a lot. But I think you're right, because then you go into the grief aspect of it, and people don't want to feel it. People don't want to feel their vulnerability. People don't want to open that, It's like the most natural thing in the world. Like, I feel like I feel like what some of my biggest viral videos on TikTok, right, are the videos where I just like say it as it is, and I'm like, you're gonna die. And that, like, it gets people, roused up. And I did one recently, and I was like, and everyone you love is going to die. Like, it is what it is, in a nice way. Sorry, like, it's just that I didn't make the rules. It's like, I didn't do that. You're just speaking facts here. So when that's the case, it's like, those videos go absolutely viral. And I was just thinking to myself, like, you're going to die, I'm going to die. That kind of grief, like, when everyone's going to die, it's like, that means you're going to carry grief in your life. Like, that means that the people around you carry grief in their life. That's life altering. It makes us all so connected too. Like, it's the things that we know. Like, it's like that famous quote, grief is just love in reverse. Like, it's where love has nowhere to go. It's the tax you pay on love. So it's like, we're all going to experience it. And that grief is a lot. Like, grief is a very heavy weight to carry. Tell me that, yeah. So when you're going through those experiences, it's like, there's other people, you, me, everyone around us, that just, like, you've probably experienced some form of grief in one way or another. You're experienced that death, or you experienced the death of, like, your old self when, in certain things. Even in just everyday life, though. That's a really good, that we can go on for hours, but, like, the death of yourself, the grief of yourself, but, like, an old past self, like, That's true. Like there are many different griefs and levels to it and experiences with it. And
Yeah, like if you experience something, then all of a sudden it's like a wake up call for a lot of people too. Like, you know, until they go to that funeral, until they see that person, until they realize that person could just be there one day and then go on the next. Like then you start thinking about your own mortality and, you know.
But I feel like some people don't even do that either. Like I do. I think that there are people out there that are unfortunately so like closed-minded to the whole fact of it. Not that it's never going to happen to them. Obviously they know, but it's like they just like, if you don't think about it, then, you know, you could just keep pushing it off, and then it'll you know, prolong the inevitable.
You can't like, but even that, like your body's going to give out. Like if you do make it to 100, right? Like your body ain't making it to 100. So you only have this time, like, you know, to do what you want to do now with what you got now. Like, you know, you have the time, you have the energy, you have to do it, but you can't do that when you're 90, you know? I mean, my grandma went skydiving at 86, so like, you know.
That is a different breed.
That's a little different.
Yeah,
but you know, like you put things off and you don't realize that, you know? So like you have to think about it.
About grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, I think about like if you live a longer life, that's a lot of people to grieve. Like everyone you love dies.
Yeah,
Like
that was Aunt Gladys. She was 100, and she buried everybody. You know, her husband, her parents, her siblings.
she outlived everyone.
She outlived everyone, and she would just take walks in her 90s. Right before COVID hit, she would take walks through the cemetery to like visit all her friends. Because that's where
That's where everyone was. Like that. Like think about all those years she had to go carrying all that grief too. You know, like wow. I do a lot of funeral arrangements, and people like I feel like the older they get, like the smaller the funerals. Like you know, like they're sometimes we do like pre-arrangements with families, and like they'll put in like a lot of money. They're going to do the whole shebang, the visitation, the church thing. And then the woman lives like, you know, 30 years. And then they're like, listen, like, we're just going to do a private burial. Like, no one's going to be coming. Like,
so I have a question for that. If we're pre-planning funerals, if we're talking about death, if we do all that and they want something different at the end, what happens to all that pre-planning, everything that was, you know, either paid for, handled? Like, what happens if everything changes in the end?
We change it. Like, you know, give your family the money back.
Yeah.
You know, like unless it's like this, there's like a whole thing in it where it's like if it's like a Medicaid thing, like, and then you have that money there, the money has to be spent on the funeral, or else you got to like forfeit it to the county. Like that's like a whole. You're
going down a rabbit hole that we do not have time for.
No, and I don't even know that that's New York, so I don't know what other states are like and things like that. But yeah, no, you can change it, like, and that happens. Like, more honestly, like, I find it's more when people pre-plan. And then they live like a lot longer. It's like the family comes, they're like, we could do it all, but like, it's just the four of us. Like,
so what you're saying is pre-plan your funeral and you live longer.
Maybe. Pre-plan with me and you'll live even longer.
Yeah. At least happier, that's for sure. You know, more fulfilled life.
Have it done. Be done with it already.
It's that peace of mind. But like, yeah, I guess.
Funerals are for the living. They are not for the dead. Like, let's be real.
So so for the people who say like, when I die, it's your problem, not mine. That's why I don't need to pre-plan my funeral.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't like that mentality either, personally. Like, I feel like that puts a lot on the family when the time comes to make those decisions.
Who are dealing with something like a big, you know, grieving, you know, when you're going through that, the funeral, you know, I've dealt with it firsthand. Like, you're not in the right mental state of mind. Like, you're not making all the best decisions.
That's what I mean. I feel like if anything, like, go make a plan then at the funeral home, have it there, and then like if you know, tell your kids like, okay, like I have a plan, but like if you don't want to do that and you have a different plan, change the plan. Like if that's your real feelings on it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do come in and you make like so many decisions. Like I cannot explain in such a short period of time in funeral arrangements. I was reading too, like people spend like 6 months, the average of 6 months of people spend planning their wedding, and it's like less than a day planning a funeral. It's like an hour planning a funeral because the funeral director's doing everything. So like you're making all those decisions so quickly. When you're grief stricken, like you don't know, and a lot of people find comfort knowing at least that they're providing what their relative would have wanted or was okay with, even if it's a bare minimum. Like that's what they were okay with. Good people, you know. I don't know. Pre-planning, I would do it, and I would also say like it is for the living. Like if when the time comes, and if you're older and you know what's your values change, maybe your religion changed, your family changed, you know, like, and you want to change the funeral. then the family changes it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Still could have a plan in place, or at least have all that paperwork in order.
Something. Just get something done.
Right. So, yeah, I think this is like that kind of pretty much summing up what I want the whole podcast to like be about. Like I really do. Like I want the whole podcast to just like I want to like share, stories and all this other stuff, because I think that death is such a big lesson. It's probably my strongest lesson, and there's so much to know, and also like it's gonna happen to everybody. Like everyone's gonna die. Like you got to know a little bit of something.
Well, and it's nice to have somebody who's educated and also uses a sense of humor with her education, and who looks beautiful too all the time. And
Girl, that's
like
so sweet.
I think that you're very inspiring to people that want to get into this business, people who don't want to talk. Like for everybody, I think it's why you blew up so quickly the way you did on TikTok too. It's because people want to hear what you have to say, and you have a lot to say.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Somebody said to me when I was like on TikTok after like a first year, they were like, a colleague called me up. He's like, what are you going to do when, like when you run out of stuff to talk about? I'm like, what? Me? No. I was like, brother, I have plenty of content, and it's just going to keep rolling. Yeah. And like, honestly, the more that I go to work and I keep doing this, like the stories don't stop.
I was just going to say that. It's never going to stop, because I literally will talk to you for like a week and you're like, yeah, this is a slow week. And then the next day you're like, well, this is the craziest day I've had in years. And I did 65 different things. And it's 9 o'clock in the morning and now I'm on my way to the crematory. I'm on my way to the crematory. I'll call you right back.
All the time. It's absolutely insane. And we are doing such a Puerto Rican goodbye right now. Yeah, so I hope that you guys subscribe and like it and share it and comment and share it.
All the good things.
All the good things. And come back for the next episode, because this is a lot of fun.
This is a lot of fun. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Warming up to it, so cool. Having me, it's our show. So.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me be here. Thanks for picking me to be your favorite. I'm the favorite.
Bye.